What does it really take to succeed in the self-storage business today? Well, let me share with you some of my ideas about that. My name's Mark Helm, and I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Self-Storage Quick Start Academy. And what I do is I support the small investor who wants to get in the self-storage business or who wants to grow their self-storage business, strategically do so in a way that creates true wealth in a fulfilling career. And we've just completed, with last week's episode, a lengthy series called Getting Started Series. And I went into a lot of detail about what it takes, how do you analyze, how do you find facilities, how do you analyze them, what do you do in the due diligence, all of kind of what I think are the nuts and bolts for running, getting in, or purchasing a self-storage asset. And over the years, I've worked with a number of people in numerous capacities and supported them in getting in the self-storage business. I work with a number of people today, consulting and coaching them on getting in the self-storage business. And the reality is, I only know what I know. I teach everyone the same thing. I teach what we do and what our approach to it is. It's work for the most part for myself and my company. But I've never ceased to be amazed. Exact same thing. Some people are highly successful at it. Some people never get in the business. Exact same thing. They look at some cases they're looking at the exact same facilities. One person can make it work, another person can't get off the ground. In essence, everyone I work with knows the same things. Why are some people successful and some people aren't? That's what I want to talk about today. Now, I know some of you, if you've been with me a while, you've heard me say this, but I believe it with every fiber of my being. Knowing what to do, knowing the technical data, knowing the how-to, at most, is maybe 20% of what it takes to be successful. 80% of your success in getting in or growing your self-storage business has nothing to do with knowing what to do. Yes, you've got to know what to do. You've got to know how to analyze. You've got to be able to put a loan on it. You have to be able to run the facility somehow or get someone to run it. There's a lot you need to know to be successful, but that knowing doesn't have a whole lot to do with whether you are successful or not. In fact, I think 80% of what it takes to be successful is what I'll call mindset. In other words, how you view the world, how you view yourself, how you view success, and your relationship with money and success. Literally, I think 80% of your chances of being successful are in that realm rather than the realm I normally traffic in, which is how to analyze, how to find, and how to put a project into service. So if you're thinking, well, 80%, what is in that 80%? Well, I think there's mindsets or ways of being or belief systems that people have that allow them to move through all of the spaces and obstacles one has to move through to be successful at anything, but particularly self-storage today. So what is that 80%? Well, let me briefly share with you what I've noticed from working with so many people. So I'm going to share what I'm going to call the mindsets, the 5 mindsets. Now, these are not the end-all and be-all of this, and a lot of training that I've had and other people have had have never called them these names, but I've really been developed in spend a lot of time working on myself and I'm trying to encapsulate it all into something that's easy to digest and will allow you to know where you can focus attention if you feel you need to focus with it. So the first mindset I'm going to talk about that I think is part of the 80% needed to be successful in today's self-storage business is what I call the can-do-it mindset. In other words, the people I work with that go and put their first or next project into service and then continue to expand are people who have a belief that they can do it. If one person has been able to do it, if you've been able to do it, Mark, or someone you work with has done it, then I can do it. If someone else can do something, there's no reason why I can't do it too. Now, no one ever says that to me, but I'm looking for and listening for that type of mindset. Now, we're going to go into more detail in other weeks on what's involved in these mindsets and what someone can do to develop them. But today I want to identify what they are. And in my world, that's a critical one. The next mindset, number 2, is what I'm going to call the I don't have to know everything at this moment to take action mindset. And this really piggybacks off number 1. But I've known people who have this mindset but don't have number 1. And here's the thing, there are a lot of spaces. If you went through the Getting Started series, there are a lot of aspects you've got to move through to even get your first self-storage facility. And if you have to wait till you know everything about every one of those aspects, you're not going to be in the self-storage facility. What I've seen is the people who know themselves and relate to themselves as someone who can, yes, I don't know everything I need to know at this moment about getting a self-storage loan or raising the capital or putting the project into service, but I know I can learn it, and I know I can learn it by when I need to know it, and that doesn't stop me from taking action at this moment and, let's say, writing an LOI or putting it under contract. Those people are the ones that I see are the ones who get in the self-storage business or who grow their business. Now, I'm not saying act recklessly, but I'm saying you don't have to know everything. I don't know everything. On every deal I do, I make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. But who I am for myself is, I'll know what I need to know to make this project be successful. And that's not going to stop me from taking action today that I need to take because I don't know about some other aspect of the storage industry. The third mindset that I see people who are successful in the storage business have are what I'm going to call problems and obstacles are part of the business mindset. Here's what I've seen. Most of us have a basic underlying belief. The world has taught us, has informed us that if we're doing things right, if life's going the way it should be, if I'm running my business right, if this deal's going right, I really shouldn't have problems. Problems mean that something's wrong, and more importantly, something's wrong with me or something's wrong with you. Now, you may never have vocalized it that way, but the majority of people in the world today, that's how they live their life. That's how they relate to obstacles and problems, like it's personal, like it shouldn't be there. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. There are problems in life, period. Everyone has problems. There are obstacles on every deal you do. Every deal. Now, the problem is, ironically, is most people have the same problems year after year, business after business, marriage after marriage, same problems, same boring problems year after year. I invite you to begin to change your relationship with problems. Create problems worthy of the next decade of your life. Create a big problem for yourself. We'll go into more detail on this, but I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people stopped by problems and obstacles that arise, and they have a weak relationship to problems and obstacles. I've been real guilty of that myself. The fourth mindset I've seen that really is important is what I'm going to call the leaders inspire mindset. So it doesn't matter how big your business or how small your business is going to be. You can't do everything. I guess theoretically you could buy something all cash, have no employees, and never see a customer. I mean, I don't know anybody who's ever done that, but I guess it's theoretically possible. But for the most part, you're going to be interacting with employees, with vendors, with partners, with customers. And how you show up, to a large degree, determines your success. What I've seen is that people who can inspire, in other words, people who can share a vision for a project or a vision for what you're up to in doing this thing, this storage business, this particular project, you working for me at this particular project, people who can share a vision that other people get excited about and want to be a part of, those are the people that are successful. Now, not everyone has the skill or can develop the skill. I think everyone can. But if you can't, it's important that someone on your team can. But more important is you need to know about this. The days of just being an autocratic business owner telling people exactly what to do and not caring about how they feel about your company, those days are pretty much over. I think it's critical to be able to create a vision and enroll and have other people want to participate in the vision that you've created. Those are the people that I see that are successful in this business. Again, in a future episode, we'll go into detail on this. And the final mindset I want to talk about that I've distilled down from the people I work with is what I'm going to call the ability to take action when there's fear mindset. Now, this really could have been the first one. It's involved in all of the mindsets, but I saved it for last because for many of us, this is really the hardest one to kind of grapple with, because none of us want to relate to ourselves as somebody who's afraid. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Everyone has fear. And if you're in business for yourself and you're growing a business or starting a business, there is fear, period. Now, if you think there is no fear, then that's something to deal with. Now, what's critical is to be able to know that when we're being stopped by fear or when we're being stopped by something else. Mostly we say it's something else. The market's not real good. Prices are too high. The lending environment sucks. There's a recession or whatever. But what we're really being stopped by is fear. It's important as a business owner that we can distinguish the two, because when it's being stopped by fear, we have 100% control over that. But most people will never address that. What I want to do is show you what the training that I've received on how to address fear and then be able to determine if what I'm being stopped by is fear or something else. But as a business owner, I feel it's critical to know that. And it's probably the thing very few business owners really ever talk about. Of all that I do in running a storage business and working with people, the most fulfilling thing there is for me is when someone I'm working with gets their first self-storage facility, because I know now what's possible for them and their family and them and their lives. It's not that everything's handled at that moment. In fact, there's a lot of growth in front of them and a lot of bumping and grinding and expanding and becoming bigger to run that facility and run that business and grow that business. But it's really exciting to me because I know who they've become and all they've had to go through to get to that space. I remember early when I first started working with other people in this coaching and training capacity, I was working with a couple of firefighters. And these guys had owned some rental properties, but they really wanted to get into the self-storage business because they saw the advantages of self-storage and they saw that it was a big enough asset that it could speed up and support them in retirement. It could speed up their retirement and support them in retirement a lot better than managing a bunch of rentals in their market, which was really overpriced, housing overpriced out in California. And it was so inspiring to watch them go through all that, the growing and the learning and the banging around and moving through the fear and not knowing what to do and buying their first facility. I mean, nothing was more gratifying than that. And then when they bought their first facility, real surprises came up. The previous owner didn't even have an operating system and did everything by hand, and more surprises were coming up. Most recently, when I was talking to them, they had it's taken them longer than they anticipated, but they've got that property under control and growing, and they were looking at doing their next one. But it's really motivating to see someone take control of their life like that. I can't tell you the number of times I've been working with somebody who in my first conversation with them said that they want to be able to quit their day job and run their storage business. And then 6 months, year, 2 years later, that happens. That's very gratifying on my end to know that I played a small part in that. The good news is we don't have to be perfect. I think to be successful in the storage business, yes, we have to know what to do, but the successful people I've seen are the people who will deal with themselves and grow both personally and professionally and deal with what they've got to deal with to become a bigger person, to create a bigger life for themselves. I want to do this series called What It Takes to Be Successful Today series, and deal directly with the mindsets that I've outlined that I think will make a big difference. Everyone's a little bit different. What's important is to be able to analyze yourself and see where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and be honest with yourself. I was talking with a gentleman this morning that I'm working with and sharing some of these ideas. And what he informed me was, yes, it's important. These ideas are important. They're not just important for entrepreneurs, though. Everybody needs to deal with them, or everyone's going to live a small life. The challenge is, if you're an entrepreneur and you don't deal with these, the consequences are just magnified and probably will cost you more than someone with just a regular job and goes through life. Not that there's anything wrong with a regular job, but to live an unexamined, self-reflected life is to live small in the world. To start your own business and expand out and take on something you really don't know a lot about, but you have faith that you can be a person who can run this business, that's going to require something of you. You're going to have to become a bigger person with bigger support system in place than you currently have to be that person. To me, that's where the juice and the fulfillment of being in the storage business is. Yes, the money's great, but it's who you get to be is where the fulfillment is. All money will do, it will magnify who you are. If you want a larger life, become a larger person. I spend as much, if not more, on my personal development as I do in my professional development. Maybe that just means I have further to go. But I think personal development and being able to honestly reflect where your strengths and weaknesses are and how you need to personally expand yourself to be successful, that's where the excitement and the fun is. Again, in my opinion, that's where 80% of your success lies. So next week, we're going to dive deep into the I can do it mindset. I look forward to being with you then. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Storage World Analyzer. That's the financial analysis tool we use daily as we analyze the properties to decide which ones we're going to try to put into service and which ones we're not. So I look forward to being with you next week, and I'll see you then.